Hello everyone, it's Gemma the Inspired Stamper here. Thank you for joining me today. So we're making this card using the Butterfly Bouquet collection. I'll be mainly using the dies and the designer series paper. So I've got a couple of pieces of the designer series paper, one of them of which I'm going to use for my background, and I'm using the basic pattern decorative masks. I've chosen one out of there, and we're going to add some gilded leaf embellishment to give our designer series paper a little bit of bling and a bit of detail and texture. So I'm just running the ink pad, the Versamark ink pad, over the top of the mask like a stencil, and I'm going to be adding in the heat and stick powder. That's how we're going to attach our gilding leaf today. Just going to add a good coating of that. It's just like regular embossing powder. So we pop it on, and then we need to heat it with the heat gun so it goes shiny and sticky. Then I will be popping it straight into my box of gilded leaf, and I literally dunk it straight in, give it a good push on. Then I'm going to use my sponge to wipe off the excess, like I did in my previous video using the tear and tape. So I'm just running my sponge over it, flicking off the excess flakes. If you find you missed a little bit, you can grab a bit more of the flake and add it on. Now, if you find that you've missed too much and there's too many patches, you can actually go back in and reheat it with your heat gun and pop it back into the gilding flakes and add a bit more. So there we go, I'm happy with my background. As you see, it's not perfect, but I think it adds to the effect. So I'm now just going to trim this down to go on the front of my card. I will put all the measurements for the layers for the card onto my blog in the description box below. So there's my layer for the front of my card, and I'm also going to use a piece of this pink paper to cut out one of the detailed dies as well, to layer on top of one of the butterflies that I'm going to cut out. Now, this piece that I'm just trimming the butterfly away from, you can actually cut all 6 of the main butterfly images on that piece of paper using your large die, but I just wanted the pink one, so I've just trimmed it down today. So there's that large die that I was saying that you could use to cut all of the butterflies from. So you can cut a whole load out and get them all ready for your cards. But I'm just going to line that up over the one that I want to cut out. I'm just going to use a tiny bit of washi tape just to hold that in place while I run it through my die cutting machine. So that's both our butterfly images cut out. This one, the detailed one, is going to go on top of the solid butterfly image, and that's ready to put on the front of our card. Then I have already die cut a piece of basic white card, and I used one of the Tasteful label dies to cut that out, and I'm just adding in some detail with one of the small dies from the set. So you'll see that's done. Now I've got a rectangle of Magenta Madness card, and I'm going to stamp our sentiment on there, and that's from Always in My Heart, and I'm just going to use some white embossing powder to emboss my sentiment on there. So again, using some Versamark to stamp with, then I will use my white embossing powder, heat set that, and then that's ready to go. So to shape my sentiment, I've used the Lovely Labels Pick a Punch. Sorry about being off camera a little bit here, it's kind of hard to line up out in front of you. It's a bit easier to see what you're doing. But I'm just popping it in and using one of the sides to shape the sides of my sentiment. Now I think we're ready to put the card together. So I've got a piece of Magenta Madness, which is going to go on the background of my card. So I've got a card blank, which is half a sheet of A4 scored down the middle. And I'm just going to add in my Magenta Madness cardstock, and I'm just sticking it on at an angle. So that's my first layer. Then I'm adding in the designer series paper that we've gilded as well. Just going to pop that on top. Now I'm going to layer up my butterfly onto the label that we die cut, and I'm just going to use some dimensionals to add that on. And that's just going on at an angle as well. Then I'm just going to glue that straight onto the front of my card. With my sentiment, again, I'm using some dimensionals behind it. And then to finish this card, I've used a couple of the elegant faceted gems. I'm just going to add them in on sentiment. On the Bermuda Bay coloured card, I used some of the sequins. I just picked out a couple. I think they are the woven threads sequins on the other card. So the other card that I showed you with the blue tones, the colour I've used for that one is Bermuda Bay, and then again this one is the Magenta Madness. So there's my two cards all done and finished. Thank you for watching again today. I'll see you soon.